I'll never forget when you first shared something of mine in your Polymer Clay Daily. I'll never forget that. I think it was a dish. I think it was maybe a trinket dish. And it's funny, as you kind of go along, you set yourself little goals, and that was one of my goals, was for you to notice. Yeah. So I remember when you and Wendy and Ginger and, you know, all those that I kind of keep coming back to for advice too. Wendy has just been wonderful, a rock to me, with the book, with studio scraps, with things like that. And so I kind of fluctuate between the old and the new, you know, and it's an interesting place to be. Love actually is this gateway to her and to also Susanna Ward, that just seemed to know everyone. Do you know what I mean? I was really just trying to get, just sort of break free. I reckon I started silk screening in Australia. That's one I think I can put my finger on. And that was, no one was doing it. And Gosia, I can't remember how he reached out. Gosia did some beautiful ones to me and sent me a heap. I think at that point I just started Studio Scraps. And as you know, coming up with content for newsletters is a real challenge. And I think it's been a good one, because I have to find stuff to do and talk about, you know, and I think that was, and I like writing that as I make. So it's kind of taking people along for the ride with me.
People here who have been doing it for a very long time look and see somebody get a cutter and a slab and bam, you know, they're in business, and they're really sometimes very successful, you know. So part of it for us is jealousy.
You know, like, it's taken me a while to feel comfortable on social media too. I'm of that era. I hate having my photo taken. Hate it. Like, I'm not of the selfie generation, and I really have issues with it. And it's been a good process for me to get over that. That's been a really interesting just journey for myself. And it's taken me a really long time to sort of settle on what kind of person I want to come across online. And I've been doing graphic work for 17 years now, and I'm extremely professional in that. Good.
But you also do coaching, and you sell, and do you do classes and tutorials? And
look, I'm a big fan of multiple, you know, income streams if they so sell earrings online. I do the Studio Scraps newsletter, which was kind of one of the first of its kind in before everyone got on Patreon, actually. And it was a testing, bit of a test to see people would pay for content and information, because you get a lot of like, what glue do you use, what clay do you use questions, like, all the time. And I really wanted to share that information, but at my pace and how I wanted to share it. And I love the newsletter format. I love that I can just write through the week, take photos for it. It works well with my graphic design background, and I can kind of write a few issues ahead and so forth. And Instagram is purely just really for getting people to sign up to see Studio Scraps and or buy the new release pieces, which sort of come out once a month. It's a popular way that it's done here and in the US, I feel, where you build up to a monthly release, and then you sort of release all your work at once. I've tried releasing it as I've made it, and it just doesn't work as well as that build up. I kind of like the ebb and flow to create, hype, sell, pack, and then back you go to making again. I actually don't, the 2 days of packing orders is quite a nice sort of rest from having to be creative. So I actually appreciate that cycle of making and selling.
That's an interesting perspective. I hadn't thought about why people do it that way. I mean, it's good to see a collection and you get a good sense of things, but I didn't. So you say you make.
Yeah.
Then what was next?
So that hype. Yeah. So you hype it and show, like, drip feed, you know, what I've got. This is because I tend to sort of release a close up of a component or the idea, like the drilling shavings in the resin, and then show the components and then show the final pieces that will be online. I also respect my audience and my customers, so I like giving them notice. like in 2 weeks time or in 3 is going to be the release. Have a think about what you want, start putting some money aside if that, you know, if that's where you're at and you need to do that. So I like kind of, there is also, look, in a very sort of practical sense, I will suss out who else is doing their releases, and I've got a little tiny calendar I just note when other big names are having releases around similar times, and I will just, you know, for my own sake and theirs, you know, not go on a similar night. The studio scraps did come about, you know, I need to create a product for that huge number of followers where they will actually hopefully purchase something from me, you know. So so it's probably, and it's great, and every order I get, Cynthia, my order sheet will tell me if it's their first order or their 5th order, and I always get so excited when I have a first time customer, you know, and they get a different handwritten note than my regulars do. And from going to real markets before COVID, that's also where you pick up new people. Workshops you mentioned before, so I've just started doing some workshops here in Sydney, at a lovely little place in Sydney. So we had 14 people last Saturday just doing slab work, and it was really, I forgot how good workshops were.